Hello, hello, friends. It's Raquel with your energy forecast for the Cancer full moon on December 26th, 2023. So, if you have been feeling just exhausted, honestly, and just so ready to kind of hibernate and do a whole lot of nothing, even in the midst of the busy holiday season, congratulations, you are totally feeling the energies of this upcoming Cancer full moon. So, when I was feeling into the energies of this Cancer full moon, there was definitely this kind of like paring down, this kind of slow down of energy. And I know as I've been following other astrologers and intuitives that there is this kind of like hibernation kind of energy that we're feeling. And we're already feeling it now, even with the buildup of everything that's coming up with Christmas and the holidays and the parties and the shopping and all the things. It's kind of being a little bit, there's a little bit of tension between what's happening in the outside world and what's happening internally, where we're already feeling that call for more rest, for more restoration, for more rejuvenation, and definitely for more inner reflection, reassessment, and refinement. And there's a couple of other astrological things at play that are increasing this kind of hibernating within energy that's coming up with this Cancer full moon. So, just a couple things. First of all, let's talk a little bit about Cancer energy in itself. I am a Cancer sun, I am a Cancer rising, and my Venus is in Cancer as well. So I am pretty familiar with the complexity of Cancer energy. On the light side, Cancer is so nurturing, motherly, empathetic, empathic, intuitive, loyal, sensitive, loving. Very, very loving, very caring. On the shadow side, Cancer can be extremely sensitive. It can also be like a little bit defensive, can get kind of self-isolating, and can also be very unforgiving. I'm not calling myself out, not at all. Um, and when we're in this kind of wintry zone with this Cancer full moon, there is this sense of kind of like this big energy of nurturing. Now, often Cancer takes this nurturing motherly energy and puts it outwards, nurtures and mothers everybody around them. But this full moon is actually asking us to do that of ourselves. It's asking for this Cancer nurturing energy to be turned inward. Now, just so you know, the moon being in Cancer is a place where the moon really likes to be. The moon governs Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So when the moon is in the Cancer sector of the zodiac, the moon is happy. The moon is comfortable. So even though we're going to have emotions that come up with this full moon, because every full moon brings up emotions, that's kind of what full moons do. Even though we'll have these emotions rising up to the surface to be processed, to be felt, to be illuminated, and to hopefully be released as well, there is also this sense of like, um, sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought for a second. Hello, Mercury retrograde, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So, yes, okay. So, even though, yeah, the moon is in Cancer, is extremely happy. And even though we're having these emotions come up, because the moon is super comfortable and happy in the sign of Cancer, it's almost like we have more acceptance, more capacity to hold our own activations, our own emotional activations with this full moon. So it might feel like something, a trigger point or something that is coming up with this full moon. Perhaps at other full moons, it would have taken us down. But with this full moon, there's more of an acceptance around it. There's more of a space we can hold around ourselves. So even though there is some kind of like emotional volatility that I could feel into with this full moon, which I could feel into every full moon, there's a lot more stability that I'm picking up on with this full moon. And I do feel like this has to do with that relationship between the moon and Cancer and how stabilizing that relationship is. So long story short, yeah, we'll be emo. It is a full moon. Full moons do that. But our emo-ness with this full moon will be tempered with a sense of inner capacity, inner capability. And that's actually a big theme of this full moon. The theme that I identified for this full moon is hibernate in the home within. And there's really the sense of leaning into this safety, this security, this belonging that really we can only find within ourselves. I think so many of us spend a lifetime seeking an external validation of our worth, of our safety, of our belonging. And yet, if we do not find that within, we will constantly spend our lives seeking it outside of ourselves. So this is a full moon that reminds us this is an inside job, home, belonging, safety. It's an inside job too. Now, I'm not saying these things aren't necessary in our physical world as well. They are. But from an emotional standpoint, which again, the moon is our emotional body, from an emotional standpoint, we need to find the emotions of belonging, safety, security inside in order to be able to also experience those emotions outside as well. Okay, so big theme of this Cancer full moon is the safety we have inside, how safe we are to actually feel our emotions. And there is kind of a slowing down of energy with this full moon. We will be feeling more inclined to hibernate, to rest, to reflect. Now, this full moon is coming on December 26th, which is the day after Christmas. And if we are lucky enough or privileged enough to not have to work between Christmas and New Year's, we all know that kind of like liminal space that is occupied within those days where, we don't really know what day it is. We can't really get a ton of work done because it's kind of like this like dead zone in some ways in terms of like actual productivity, which is a good thing in many ways. Now, this is again, if we have the ability to have some time off, this is a great time to take some time off, to lean into that rest, to lean into like not getting out of pajamas for a few days, to lean into like, what day is it actually? Like that, actually letting that be okay, not shaming or blaming yourself for letting yourself go into like deep places of just rest. That's a big theme. Now, a couple of other interesting things coming up with this Cancer full moon. First and foremost, while the Cancer is, while the full moon is in Cancer, the sun is going to be in the opposite sign of Capricorn. Capricorn season starts with the winter solstice on December 21st and goes through about January 19th. Now, when we think about Capricorn, Capricorn is a very ambitious, driven, like if Cancer is the archetypal mother, Capricorn's kind of the archetypal father. Capricorn is always looking to create systems, is always looking to create structure and stability. Capricorn is very driven, very ambitious, very motivated. And it's always been interesting to me that we have Capricorn season right here in the middle of winter. Like usually Capricorn season starts with winter solstice. And I always found that kind of interesting because Capricorn has this kind of like hustling energy and winter kind of has this like, let's pare back this hustle kind of energy. But I think what's really, really interesting is with winter solstice, with the Capricorn sun, and with this Cancer moon, they're all actually providing us the same themes. And that theme is the benefit of balance. The benefit of balance. So winter solstice comes on December 21st, which is Thursday of this week. Today is Tuesday, the 19th, when I'm filming this. And winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. It's the day with the least amount of sunlight and the most amount of night if we're on the northern hemisphere. Now, those of friends who are on the southern hemisphere, you will be experiencing summer solstice, but because I'm on the northern hemisphere, I'm going to talk about this as if it's the winter because that's where I live and that's the energies I'm working with. So winter solstice, shortest day of the year, longest night. But winter solstice also marks a big shift because winter solstice is the day when the daylight itself stops shortening and the nighttime itself stops lengthening. So from the fall, the autumn equinox until winter solstice, the days have been gradually getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But once we hit winter solstice, it doesn't mean winter's over, not at all. But what happens is that trajectory changes. And now all of a sudden, the day begins to grow and the daylight begins to grow until we get to spring equinox when we have a balance in daylight and night light, moonlight, nighttime again. So there's always this reminder that even when we are the darkest of times, when we are in the darkest, coldest of times, there's a promise, a remembering that the light is still coming. The light is there. We actually just need to accept that we are in the dark now. And that is part of what brings the light back, is the acceptance of the dark. So there's this this focus on balancing our light and our dark, balancing our doing and our being, balancing our rest with our action, which is very Cancer Capricorn. So this beautiful Cancer full moon really reminds us of the benefit of balance, reminds us that we actually really need to provide ourselves with rest and restoration as a part of our creation, as a part of our productivity. I think sometimes we look at rest as being in opposition to productivity. Thankfully, in the last few years, there's really been a push back on that. And we really do see that rest is an integral part of productivity, because when we allow ourselves to rest in the midst of our creations, we keep ourselves from eventually burning out by being more sustainable and more conservatory, conservational, conserving conserving of our energy resources. Now, my inability to bring up the right words for this video brings me to my next point for this Cancer full moon, which is Mercury retrograde. So Mercury went retrograde right after the last new moon we had, which was the new moon in Sagittarius. And Mercury will remain in retrograde until January 1st, which I think is kind of like really poetic that on the 1st, Mercury goes direct. For those who are maybe not familiar with Mercury, Mercury is the planet of communication, transportation, technology. Mercury goes retrograde usually 3 to 4 times per year. And during Mercury retrograde times, we tend to have some more snafus with our technology, with our communication, and with travel sometimes. So it's usually when Mercury is retrograde, we want to spend a little bit more time reviewing, reflecting, refining, reassessing, that whole thing. But we also want to make sure we especially if we're doing anything legal, contract wise, we really want to check the details and reread emails before we send them out. So yeah, when we're in a retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde, we want to follow these rules of Rees, which is a really helpful tip that I was taught by one of my favorite astrologers, Jessica Lanyadoo. And whenever we're in a retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde, we want to spend as much time as we can resting, reflecting, reviewing, refining, all the Rees. So with the Mercury retrograde that's also happening during this Cancer full moon, again, we are being encouraged to rest, to lean into rest, to honor rest as part of our creative process. And there's really this kind of energy with this particular Cancer full moon of recognizing that the energy that we want, the motivation, that kind of New Year's excitement that often happens, all of that energy is actually on the other side of us conserving our energy first. So this full moon in Cancer is really a conservation of energy. It kind of reminds me of those little kid toys, like the little cars, those little, like, they're not electric, but they you pull them back and it kind of creates this like rubber band on a spring on the inside. You pull it back, it creates that tension, and then you let it go and it just boom, the car just zooms forward, right? And I didn't use any of the right physics words for what I just described because Mercury is retrograde and I'm not finding the right words, friends. That being said, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes when we pull things back, it's the same thing with like an arrow or a slingshot. We pull it back and there's all this potential energy in the holding, and there's this conservation and holding of energy. And then as soon as we let that go, boom, all that energy just like launches things forward. And that's a lot of what I'm picking up on with this Cancer full moon. It's almost this idea of like, if we just really let ourselves ease into the end of 2023, allow ourselves to review the year, to honor our accomplishments, to reflect on our quote unquote failures or challenges. And we really just allow ourselves this time of reflection and rest. We're going to head into 2024, into the new year, with this real buildup of motivational, authentic energy. Typically, I'm not often a New Year's person because I find that New Year's is extremely contrived. Like all of a sudden, we have this new year in the dead of winter. That doesn't feel accurate. That being said, because of the way the world celebrates New Year's, there really is this collective energy for newness, for trying new things, for incentivizing, motivation, all that stuff. Like there is a real collective energy for that with New Year's. And I do feel this New Year's in particular, I am feeling more motivated and more inspired to quote unquote set intentions or goals. I don't like really using that word. Definitely not resolutions. I usually for New Year's have a word that kind of comes up. That's my theme for the year. But this year, I do see myself and find myself setting some goals, which is kind of different for me. And I do feel this has to do with this kind of conservation of energy and knowing that as we head into the new year, there's going to be all this kind of collective and astrological universal energy really pushing us forward. So again, Mercury goes direct on January 1st, and then we have a new moon in Capricorn on January 11th, which I will be sharing much more about as we get closer to that. But Capricorn energy is very inspiring, motivated, all that kind of stuff. So we have that with New Year's as well. I also wanted to announce to you all that I have a big announcement, a rebrand that is coming with the new moon in Capricorn. So, of course, you'll be hearing a lot more about that from me. But I am definitely using these last few weeks of 2023 and this new moon and full moon in Cancer and Mercury retrograde to assist me as I am reflecting upon, reviewing, and reassessing and refining my business, the way I present my business, my offerings, all that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely using these energies at play. Although I do have to admit, Mercury being retrograde is really slowing down my rewriting my copy for my website because, again, words are hard to come by right now. But one of the things I'm also doing to honor the energies of winter solstice and the energies of this upcoming full moon in Cancer is to really balance out my action, my deadlines, my momentum and my motivation with rest, with time with family, with reading books, with watching movies, with doing nothing. I'm really doing my best to balance those things so that I can stay in alignment with myself and with the energies at play as well. All right, friends, if you want more on this full moon, including journal prompts and some more information about the astrology of this upcoming Cancer full moon, please check out the moon blog. I have the link down in the comments below. If you like these videos, please do the things. Subscribe, like, share, comment, pass it on to a friend who you think might benefit from this as well. And I'm so excited to be back with you all in January for the new moon in Capricorn and also to announce to you all my new business name and all those good things. So anyway, I'll see you guys back in January, friends. Merry Christmas to you if you celebrate Christmas. Happy holidays for whatever holidays you celebrate, and a very, very happy new year to you all as well. May your rest be so restorative for you, and may you never forget the beautiful home that lives within each and every one of you. See you soon, friends. Bye.